Amber Ormasen, candidate for District 5, the St. Lawrence County Board of Legislators. Amber, thank you so much for taking the time today. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right. So I just wanted to start. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background in the community professionally and personally?
Sure. First, you have to forgive me because I have severe allergies right now, so you're going to hear a lot of sniffles. But moving on from that, I've been a teacher here at D-Gouverneur for just over 14 years. I've been a teacher actually for 16 years. And within that role at the school, I've been on countless committees and such, reintegration committees, especially focusing more on the mental health part with especially with remote learning and everything that's going on. I'm also currently on the executive board of our teachers union. I'm the building representative within that area. I've lived here all my life, and my family and I, we made a home here. My husband and I, we grew up here in Gouverneur, and we chose to raise our family here. We're very involved with the United Methodist Church. Very, very involved. It's like our second home. Within the church, I've been on countless committees there. I was the chair of staff parish relations. That's like the human resources aspect of the church organization. Been on the finance committee, working with Sunday school and youth ministries, but mainly actually within the community, I'm more well known for my Ripit ministry that I created 7 years ago, and it's a fitness ministry opened up to the community. I have two daughters, and they are both very much involved with this process, which is quite unique. My daughter just got accepted to Columbia University for pre-law, so she's right with me on this, which is fun. And did you want me to also go into why I'm running or just the background?
I know I didn't share them with you, but you must have gotten the list of the questions because that was my next segue here is what is your primary motivation for running for the board?
Actually, I guess it's a culmination of a lot of little things. I never once in my life, if you would have asked me 10, 15 years ago if I would see myself running for office, I would have thought that you were crazy. But a lot of little things have built up to this. Mostly, I'm definitely a servant, and I'm always on a mission for the greater good. Very busy leading different things, but primarily, I would say the driving force has been recently I had found myself a bit overwhelmed with the amount of division that I was seeing primarily at the national level, but and I had fear of seeing that trickling down to our local communities, but, maybe even in my own family and household. And then because I am just so heavily involved in the community and being a teacher and the children and parents and families and through the church, a lot of the community members that I was around, I could sense their discouragement and frustrations too in regards to like the political climate. And I'm known in my community as someone who is always offering support, encouragement, and willing to take action and stand up. And typically, I guess when I see a need, I just go running. So that's kind of when I was asked, it was the perfect time. I was ready.
Mm-hmm. So being involved in the community, what do you think are some of the issues that are particularly pressing in your community? You're the district you're running to represent would include Gouverneur and Cloister.
Well, there's a lot of things that I'm trying to learn at the county level. There's a lot of things on the table on the legislator board as far as the county. But I would say right now in my community, and honestly, it's something that's not really being talked about a lot, but I feel that it's trying to figure out how to keep our schools open and get our kids back to school. am just, as a teacher, I'm overwhelmed with the thought of the new mandates that have come out. I think that our public health director, they're doing an amazing job with keeping updates and that transparency and trying to help. But for me, talking with a lot of constituents in our families and the hardships that COVID's creating with, our unemployment clearly is quite high. Governor has the highest poverty rate, I believe. And so things like we don't have childcare services, like even compared, I've lived in Canton and Potsdam, even compared to those areas, it's much more difficult to find childcare in Gouverneur. We're relying heavily on grandparents, siblings. There's not a lot of centers. So that is really high on the radar right now with our families. That's one of the biggest ones. And then I was just at the town board meeting, and of course, they discussed a little bit about, what were they talking about? The green energy and bringing in the solar. And we actually have 4 developments on the table right now. There's a 5th one in the works, and that's continuing to be discussed. And then another one, when I was at, and of course I saw this even at the legislator level with the tax distribution, is one of the ones that, of course, our town and village is in favor of following with the Ogdensburg. And when I met with the Poyster, they haven't quite discussed it yet. So those are some of the things that I know locally are being discussed.
Mm-hmm. So with some of those issues, why do you think the board would be better positioned to tackle them with you on it? And what are some steps you would try to take to combat some of those issues? Well,
let's see. I brought up 3 of them. So the board having me be a part of that. But when it comes to the hot topic that I brought up with the schooling, I'm an educator, and I definitely think that the board, I would hope when we start talking about those things, that they have subcommittees, I believe. So hopefully I could be on a committee with the services and being able to have some good discussions with public health and what we're seeing within my school district. And, I already work closely with my school district, so being able to maybe also bring other school districts in with some of those discussions. Bringing to the board, I'm trying to make sure I remember your question, bringing to the board when it comes to the solar aspect of everything, that area is, I'm not going to lie, is brand new to me. So basically it's going to be open communication, making sure that I'm attending the meetings and not being afraid to ask questions, get answers, and kind of have that transparency of what's happening in my town. I know some of the big discussions with the solar energy is the agriculture, and it can create issues with that. So making sure that I'm aware of what's exactly happening in my area. So when we are talking about things on the table, I'm able to bring those answers forward. As far as the tax distribution, that is some ongoing negotiations, and I guess it's gonna be the same. I'm very new at this compared to the other legislators who are candidates right now. They're actually in there being able to have these discussions and ask these questions. So I guess my biggest role is going to be not just, of course, representing my town and my district and what their needs are, and they're in favor of things, but seeing what the county's perspective is. And I know that the county's in charge of I think it is 22 different services. So we have a county to run too. So I'm going to have to very much lean heavily on my team as legislators and listen to what their point of view is as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So I want to pivot into a few of the issues here. Some of the bigger things at play on the county board right now. First of which is definitely the budget. And
is the what? I'm sorry.
The budget. So moving forward over the next few months, this year's county budget, like every budget really in every municipality and school board and everybody personally, is going to be very challenging. As far as the county level, the good news is that the county's in a decent position to grapple with it. Sales taxes have been relatively nominally steady for the first half of the year. Property tax revenues will likely increase, and there's a decent amount still in the unassigned general fund balance. Right. At the same time, the administrator is proposing a $3.5 million cut in appropriations. So with regards to the unassigned general fund balance, what degree do you think the county should dig into those reserve funds next fiscal year?
Again, not actually being directly there. I mean, I did watch the presentation with our county administrator, Ruth Doyle, and I didn't have a chance. I haven't reviewed the budget line for line, nor do I think they actually have. But it's clear that there's going to have to be, those cuts, but the cuts have to be balanced with services and such. That's something that I'm not going to be able to really make a good stance on, because until I actually know what's being provided, how things are being provided, I have an understanding of that, there's a hardship and, there's a high demand for services right now in a crisis. So I'll need to be a part of those discussions. And I'm hoping that those discussions would, we're going to provide some sort of data to be able, and evidence, when we're looking into different programs and how things are run efficiently. Are things understaffed? Are there gaps in services? And, make strategic decisions. But as far as the exactly how and what, I don't feel like I'm in a place to make a suggestion on where that should be.
Mm-hmm. So another topic is the county's Department of Social Services, particularly foster and in children institutional care. So currently there are around 340 children in foster and institutional care in St. Lawrence County, and that number has doubled over the last year, to the point where St. Lawrence County now has 1 out of every 100 residents outside of New York City in the state, and 4 out of every 100 foster children. The Department of Social Services General Counsel's office saw a 100% turnover in the last year, and the Commissioner's office was unfilled for several months. What do you believe are at the root causes to the situation with the increased number of children in foster care, and what actionable steps would you propose or suggest looking at taking if you were on the board to solve this issue?
To solve that issue, that's a big one.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big question, but it deserves that big question because, as far as I know, social services, I think that's the biggest service that we offer. It's the largest department and to operate. I'm actually more aware of the foster care issue with the doubling. My mom is currently a foster parent. I've been involved in the more personal side of that for quite some years. So I see that trend, and social services is the lifeline, for a lot of our children, really, and I see it even, within the school system. The doubling, I think that so a lot of it, I do think that has to do with the pandemic, and we're going through such a challenging time in these children. It's hard to find placement as it is for kids. I think that this is an area that is understaffed, trying to find homes. I can only imagine, I know with my mom, it was hard to take children in and find homes for them because we were unsure of, my mom's elderly. So That had an impact on that. I would think that children being, I hate to say it, but we know that children sometimes might not have the best home life, and maybe mental health issues are a part of this with their home life and what that environment looks like. The children not getting the proper care that they need. They're not going to school, possibly not getting the food that they need. So that's going to have an impact. So with the school closures and things like that. I believe that we have some issues with, I would say, the opioid crisis, and I know that there's a link between the dependency on that and the influx of children coming in, the detachment issues. I mean, we can go on really about just right now the reasons why the foster care that has doubled, and it's sad, and I'm so thankful from what I've read that there is a new commissioner, I believe, and so I think that that's going to help. So if we're asking what steps can we look at, I think that we're starting to head in the right direction with that. We have, let's see, I think it was, I wrote it down actually, because I know that it was really down-staffed, and now with the courts opening back up and things like that, we'll be able to get the ball rolling and get things progressing forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I want to pivot to actually something you brought up earlier, which is particularly prevalent in Gouverneur, is solar development. In the last year, and this is countywide as well, in the last few years, there's been a pretty swift movement in these large-scale community solar projects around the county. And a major concern, like you did mention, is how the project may render some of the county's best and easily accessed farmland relatively unusable. So do you think that the county planning board and other entities should be more restrictive on measures for approving these solar projects? And to what degree do you think the towns and municipalities also need to look into some more firm restrictions?
Well, I'm limited on this, but for me, anything I think that because this whole solar development and green energy is important if it makes sense, but I believe it's incredibly complicated, and you just got to make really informed decisions. So when you're talking about restrictiveness, I'm not sure how I feel about restrictions until we completely understand, what, because any development that brings jobs to the North Country could be good, but, it's also what kind of environmental impacts it's going to have. We talked to, you think about, when I was at the meeting and, having that question asked if this was farmland and tillable. And so I think that those are questions and things that definitely need to be brought up, but I'm definitely not in a place right now to make decisions or to think about what kind of restrictions should there be until I'm with people who have more experience with that.
And switching to another thing you brought up is the county's COVID response. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things the county can't control. A lot of things, especially, are mandated by the state. But particularly as it relates to the county, I just wanted to get your assessment on how that response has been so far. And at our current moment in mid-October, is there anything that the county leadership could be doing differently moving forward?
Well, I'm really proud of our county. There's a lot of things that I'm proud about. I think a lot of people go into this like, running for office, change. And actually, I think there's some really great things that we're doing and great conversations that are being had, especially right now when we're talking about there's a lot that happens at the state level that is pushed down to the county, and we're kind of left to figure these things out. And of course, I said, I'm only able to watch from Zoom right now, and I'm the type of person who, if I hear something, I'm going to ask a question about that, and I want to have discussion, and I want to learn. And so the area that I guess at the county level, I think the health department's doing a great job with transparency. One of the presentations that I saw, they did an amazing job by putting links on there because I know a lot of my constituents and people were concerned with the colleges with having students come back and, well, what are those numbers going to look like and will they be accounted for? And the county did such a great job with communication, and but the part that I just don't understand and that I'm frustrated with, and it's not the county's fault because this is coming from a state mandate with the schools, is this idea with having the students have to have a test within 48 hours, come back. And I just feel that this is something that needs to be talked about at the county level. These are our children. And when we think about things like foster care and social services and mental health and all these other little facets, a lot of it is playing into, or I should say, has to do with our children and the impact this is going to have on our children. And I just feel like that's something that as a county, we need to talk about who's watching the kids right now. Where are they? When are we going to get kids back to school? And work with the public health department on how to make that happen. And I would just love to have discussions with McGuire and get into that and the rapid testing and the clinics, and because then that also filters into our health system, which sometimes can be fragile. And it's just constantly, it's like a domino effect. So for me, that's one of the things that I would really like to talk about at the county level. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. And my next topic here is on policing. So all of the police departments and the sheriff's department as well are undergoing a review in accordance with the governor's executive order. And if elected, you would have to or have the opportunity to vote on a set of recommendations from this police advisory group for the sheriff's department. So in a more general sense, what, if any, changes do you believe our local law enforcement should be considering during this process?
Oh, boy. Well, first of all, I acknowledge that I even think sometimes these conversations can be difficult. There's a lot of sensitivity to this, and I just kind of compare it to myself as an educator. I've been teaching for so many years, and then the moment that I'm told that I've got to relook at something or revamp something, sometimes we take that personally. And I think that here we need to kind of take away that stigma that this is a bad thing, that revisiting a policy and taking a look at how things have been done and how can we make things better, how can we better serve the needs as times change, that's really a good thing. And as far as like what do I think needs to be brought to the table with this like re-envisioning, I know some things that have been looked at are more like de-escalation techniques, credentials and certification, maybe more interaction and working with like mental health workers to be able to handle some of those situations. And I think all of that is good. But I also think that a missing piece is, I remember my daughter and I were just talking about this, that I miss the time when our police officers were, able to be a part of the school and not a part of the school just because they were there for trying to keep the school safe. They were there because it was part of maybe non-enforcement activities and programs like DARE. And I think by doing that and having that part of the conversations too, and part of the vision is going to help build the local perspective and restoring that faith and trust in their officers, and as well as having maybe more initiatives for the police to have face time with the children at the school and to see them in that facet as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's pretty much everything I have on my list here. Is there anything that we discussed that you would like to revisit here in the few minutes we have?
No, I just think that it's important for me to make sure that I let anyone who is choosing to listen that I definitely understand that I have a lot to learn, but since I've decided to run, I've been putting in a lot of time to really get an understanding of not just representing my district, which I'm very familiar with my community, but also really looking forward to being with a team of legislators to kind of look at things more at a unified approach and to ask those questions and to learn and to move forward in areas that people may seem divided in. And I really look forward to that opportunity.
All right. Well, Amber, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. And for anybody listening, you can find all of these interviews with our county ledge candidates available at nny360.com.